As Tory poll ratings plummeted with the pound last week, the embattled Prime Minister, one relentless cheerleader. The Institute of Economic Affairs is a free market think tank which has a long relationship with Liz Truss. She even created the Free Enterprise Group, which is effectively a parliamentary body representing the IEA's ideas in Westminster. Well, Director General of the IEA, Mark Littlewood, joins me now. Ms Littlewood, thank you very much indeed for joining me. I want to replay you at the start of this interview, something you said to the Radio 4 Today programme about Liz Truss.
I was actually reflecting with a couple of journalists earlier. I've known Liz Truss for many years, and I can't think of another time where she's changed her mind on anything, right? Anything at all.
I just wonder whether you wanted to take that comment back, given that, I mean, my immediate checklist would include Brexit, the royal family, her political party, she was Liberal Democrat, and now a 45p tax rate. Would you take back this idea that she's never changed her mind?
Yeah, you're right, Piers. You're right. No, you're right, Piers. I was a bit loose with my words. I mean, actually, she changed her mind on Brexit afterwards. She didn't switch from Leave to Remain during the campaign. And I'll forgive her for what she said as a teenager when she was a Republican. On a particular policy decision, though, what I was trying to get across to Nick Robinson on the Today programme this morning is when she digs in her heels, they usually stay dug in. I guess over 5 years or 20 years, you might change your mind on a particular policy position. But I've never seen her change her mind in 20 minutes, which is what seems to have happened over this 45p tax rate. Really quite extraordinary. I've got a lot of sympathy with Liz Truss's views. I think you said just before the ad break there, Piers, that I have full confidence in her. I see the world in much the same way that she does. I think tax is way too high. Government spending needs to come under control, and regulation is too tight in Britain. In that broad vision, Liz Truss and I would agree. But if you want to move the country in that way, you've got to execute it. That's not the job for an economics think tank. We just produce ideas. We're not politicians. It's the jobs of the politicians to execute it. And I find some of the decisions they've made really quite extraordinary.
I mean, how many?
There was room to cut tax. My advice was to cut VAT, not the top rate of income tax.
Look, it's gratifying to see you chucking your great friend under the bus. I wasn't expecting that. But let me just ask you this. Given the varying big number policy initiatives that were announced in this mini-budget, which of them do you personally disagree with then? Would you have lifted the cap on banker bonuses? Hang on, let me finish. Would you have lifted the cap on banker bonuses? Yeah. Would you have reduced the...
Yes.
You would. Would you have reduced the tax from 45 to 40? Yes. OK. Would you have put a windfall tax on energy companies?
No.
Right. So basically, no. you agree with every single thing she's done?
Those are three elements I'm happy with.
Right. So you agree with every...
I wouldn't have spent 150...
Right.
No,
sorry.
the big part
hang on, we're talking over each other.
Which we criticise.
Let me just finish my question. So it would seem to me that you are entirely in agreement with the very mini-budget which you've just spent the last 2 minutes attacking for the execution. No. How would you have executed the same things?
No, because... Well, I would have preferred if it was a choice, and often these things are choices, Piers, as you know, probably to have focused on VAT rather than income tax. I don't mind income tax being cut. I think all taxes are probably too high. The bit of the mini-budget, which we came straight out of the traps criticising the outset, was the £150 billion energy deal. You've got to have a package to support poorer households to make sure they can get through the winter. But this is absolutely extraordinarily overblown deal. And we criticised it at the time, ahead of the mini-budget. You don't need to subsidise people heating their indoor swimming pools. Absolutely ludicrous. You need to direct help at poorer households. They've decided to go supernova on it. £150 billion. I mean, the £2 billion on the 45p rate is almost neither here nor there. I think they might have to revisit that now, make sure that's targeted. Spend less, but direct it at the poorer households.
All right.
So I like the general direction, the thinking of the Liz Truss regime, but just because I like the direction the car's going in doesn't mean I approve of them when they smash the car.
Well, I couldn't agree more. A lot of speculation about who funds your organisation. Can you give me the top three funders?
I'm not sure I even know them off the top of my head. We've got a breakdown, Piers, on our website. We are funded by people who support free markets. We don't dox our donors. We don't list their names and addresses in the public domain. If you want free market ideas to be spread, please do send us a cheque. You can go to iea.org.uk. There's a donate page. If you doubt that we would use any pound of your money to do anything other than to promote free market ideas without fear or favour, try this. Send us a cheque to try and get us to say something that isn't free market, and your cheque will be returned.
OK, would you send any cheques to support Kwasi Kwarteng's future as Chancellor, or should somebody who's executed a plan so catastrophically badly be invited to leave his office?
Well, hang on. If you want to support an individual politician, don't send any money near me. That's up to political parties.
It was a metaphor based on what you just said. It's fine. Well, should he be... Look, should Liz Truss fire
Kwasi Kwarteng's made an embarrassing political U-turn.
Should she fire him?
I mean, that's a political decision. I think probably not. It's an extremely embarrassing U-turn. They sort of looked like they were willing to die on this political hill over a £2 billion tax cut, actually a rounding error in the overall fiscal plan. This is what they've tried to do, is to stem the bleeding on this. They thought they were probably going to lose anyway, so try and get it over with. Here's the problem, though, right? The next time that Kwasi Kwarteng stands up and says something, will it be U-turned on if Michael Gove and Grant Shapps complain about it? So even if you stem this particular issue, what are we supposed to think in future when they're supposed to bring forward big plans for financial services liberation and planning?
I agree with you, so why shouldn't she just fire him? Put him out of his misery, because we're not going to trust him again.
Piers, I'm not a politician. I run an economics think tank. We try to get people to think soundly about economic
just given me
theory.
An exceptionally
What's politically possible?
Yeah, but you've just given me an exceptionally articulate explanation for why he shouldn't be in the job. Why shouldn't he be fired? Because if he isn't fired, then as long as he's there with no credibility, Liz Truss is going to be highly damaged.
Well, you say no credibility, Piers. This is a political question or one for the money markets. Clearly, the Prime Minister and the Chancellor need to regain their credibility pretty fast on a range of flanks, I would suggest, within their own political party, certainly amongst the public. I think you just highlighted another disastrous opinion poll for the Conservative Party.
Yeah.
And also on the markets. They lost credibility badly in all those three spaces.
Yeah.
They've tried to stem the bleeding by killing this one. I think they've got to regain credibility, both the Prime
problem is, it's like giving your...
pretty quick. That means...
Yeah, it's like giving your car, though, isn't it, to someone you know has just driven the previous car straight over the cliff. It's like, why would you do that? Anyway, Mark Littlewood, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Well, a prang maybe, not necessarily over the cliff.
No, I think we're talking
a major prang.
Full cliff onto the rocks with a dollop of ocean.
The full cliff.
But thank you, Mark
Littlewood. I think it's a major prang.
Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.